by a brief citation of David Afolayan. Dr. Raji, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ringin. Please permit me to keep my video off my video for easy communication. Good afternoon, everyone, once again, and I welcome you to this webinar. David Tolu Afolayan is the Chief Executive Officer and President of GIS Consult Limited and GIS Academy Headquarters in Ibadan, Nigeria. He is a business partner to ESRI, the largest GIS software company in the world, based in Redlands, California, USA. GIS is defined as the science of where that combines mapping and analytics to reveal deeper insight into location data for making smarter decisions in case we don't know the word GIS. On any given day, more than 1 billion people around the world use ESRI's GIS to improve the way they conduct and enhance their business process. On the strength of this technology, Mr. David has provided professional services for business, academic, government, security, agriculture, environment, and health industry. Mr. David started his undergraduate education studying architecture, obtaining a degree of Bachelor in Architecture from the University of Technology, Akure, Nigeria. He then furthered his education by obtaining a Master's of Science degree in Geographic Information Science, which is GIS, from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Mr. David has traveled around the world, especially Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, United Arab Emirates, Rome, and the United States, to acquire and disseminate knowledge in the area of the Geographic Information System, GIS. Indeed, it is almost an annual pilgrimage for him to be a part of the International ESRI Users Conference with partners in San Diego, California in the summer of every year, which is a meeting of more than 17,000 professionals from around the world. Apart from his professional practice, Mr. David used ESRI models of geo-mentoring. He launched the Geography Green Schools project in partnership with the Association of Nigeria Geographers to empower Nigeria secondary school students with geography knowledge and leverage on the power of innovative GIS technology for sustainable development. Mr. David is also championing geoliteracy and the use of GIS in Nigeria universities by facilitating the donation of GIS software to tertiary institutions. He is an industry partner to the University of Ibadan, where he has introduced the GeoHackathon, which is series of innovative and competitive events aimed at solving environmental problems as guided by the Sustainable Development Goals. Wow. In addition to all these that I have mentioned earlier, he was appointed a member of Oyo State COVID-19 Containment Committee in 2020, a committee that developed and implemented an effective and novel geointelligence-driven strategy that combined the indigenous practice of community engagement with compliance monitoring, leveraging on GIS technology for COVID-19, the contamination and the containment in Oyo State, Nigeria. He was also appointed a member of an ad hoc digital literacy implementation committee in 2021 with a mandate to develop a draft digital literacy policy strategy and roadmap to accelerate digital transformation in Southwest by the Development Agenda for Western Nigeria Commission, a body set up by the 6 Southwest states of Nigeria to midwife development in the region. In recognition of these contributions to sustainable development, he has received both local and international commendation and meritorious service award. Seriously, what Mr. David Tolu Afolayan is doing for Nigeria, and especially in the area of sustainable development, is something that ought to be made known to all well-meaning citizens, home and abroad. And we so much appreciate having you here, sir. Welcome with me, Mr. David Afolayan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to present to this very enlightened society. And should I just jump straight to my presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Try to share my screen. Yes. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes. I
Okay,
can see
thank
it here.
you. Great.
Yes,
So,
we can see it.
Thank you very much. I would like it to be a bit interactive. I believe this is also an opportunity for me to get to know more about conservation biology, because I am now relating with the experts in this field. So as I go on with my presentation, I would ask some questions, and I would also like us to engage even via the chat, so that the communication will be made very effective. Once again, I'd like to appreciate the Nigerian chapter or Society for Conservation Biology. My name is David Tolu Afolayan. I'm the CEO of GIS Consult. And the summary of what I want to talk about, I would like to summarize the title, though the title is Application of GIS for Biodiversity Conservation and Monitoring. But I'd like to summarize the title. Yes, please, let's all mute our mics. Thank you. So the summary for what I want to do is, first of all, I'll do a general introduction of myself, of the terms that we're using, and of the purpose for which we're gathered now. Then I want to talk about what unites us, the way forward, and talking about what is GIS. I would try to explain this so that we'll have a better understanding of this technology and would be able to start to use it immediately. Then I want to talk about partnerships, some opportunities that we can all explore together, and a general roadmap of moving forward. So let's just get right in. I'm the CEO of GIS Consult, and we have been in operation now for almost 2 decades. We have an academy that provides location intelligence to both the industry and to the academic sector. And a little brief about what we do is that a major thing is that I'm a business partner to ESRI, so I represent ESRI and the promotion of the technology in Nigeria. And over the years, we have made use of this technology in the industries, in agriculture, in telecommunication, in security, for flood management, for conservation, and several other applications across the industries. And over the years, I found out that this technology has more use and should be extended to empower young people, particularly in the education sector. And this was crystallized when I went for a conference, and I had the opportunity of listening to secondary school students, primary school students, talk about how they're using GIS to solve problems in their environment. This was a challenge to me, and that started our footprint in the education sector, which we call geoliteracy. And basically what we want to do today is geoliteracy. It's promoting the ability to use geographic understanding, reasoning, and technology to make decisions and solve problems. And our footprint in the education sector, we captured the one in universities as GeoHackathon, and our work in secondary schools, we call the Geography Green Schools projects. I will round up this presentation by talking about this work in schools. And I believe that you'll also be challenged to engage the future that we're trying to save or protect what we have presently for. So that's a summary of what we have been doing. And it's a great privilege for me to representing today to the Nigerian Society for Conservation Biology. I'd like to appreciate the president for this opportunity and the executives for inviting me for this presentation. And I have come with questions. I have some answers, but the majority of the answers are in your hands. Why do I say it's in your hands? Because your society clearly defines your work, and it's a responsibility that we all jointly must execute. We have our capacity in technology, and we want to bring that even to power what you're doing, because we are all in this boat together. The Earth is sustainability, conservation of the biodiversity is a responsibility of all. So once again, I say thank you for having me come today. For a little reminder, I know I don't have to preach to the gallery or preach to the choir. Biodiversity represents all living species on Earth, including plants, bacteria, and fungi, every living thing. And it's generally accepted that there are three levels of biodiversity: the genetic, the species, and the ecosystem. And all of these are measured at different levels of population, community, and biome. And biodiversity conservation becomes a necessity, especially when there is a recognition that a species is endangered in one way or the other. And this is possible because the species, unlike at the level at the genetic biodiversity, is what can be seen. And therefore, it's only when what can be seen becomes missing or is evident that is threatened that there is a cry for conservation. And that's when it swings in, so to speak, officially. But really, biodiversity conservation involves these three levels to be able to ensure that there is a future for us to meet. It's critical because it involves the protection and restoration and management of this biodiversity for the future and also for now. And that responsibility is what we have to look at. I call this the problem that unites us. And the United Nations clearly explains or puts details to this with the 17 goals that was announced in 2014 for 15 years, from 2015 to 2030. And this crystallizes the challenges that our world has and which must be solved, of which biodiversity conservation is critical. In fact, the goals from 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 are critical when we talk about biodiversity. And this I would explain as we move forward. All the other goals too are interwoven and are very important, but these last 5 goals are critical for the success of saving our world. And it's a multidisciplinary approach that is required for sustainable development. And that's the reason why we're talking about the technology and the basis for this meeting this afternoon. Now, there's a need for us to see what others can't. I was having a discussion yesterday with one of our technology partners on a project that we're embarking on, a collaboration with one of the conservation organizations. I'm talking about NAGRAB. There was a challenge that I identified to document their pressed leaves in the arboretum. And we found out that they said there's a special equipment for scanning this. And we were doing some brainstorming. We realized that a technology that's been released 5 years ago is already obsolete. There's a need for us to be dynamic in our approach, to be able to see what others don't see, to be able to document information that we gather in a way that can be accessed. And one of the things that we're looking at to develop is for our technology to be able to capture, even using simple mobile devices, Android devices with cameras that are not strong, but with the algorithms that we put in, it will be able to pick the signature of every object, like the leaf that we're looking at, because everything has a fingerprint. And this can be captured and interpreted and leveraged upon. I'm saying all of this because as conservationists, and particularly those that are looking forward to using technology to solve problems, we need to see what others don't see. We need to be able to capture it, document it, and utilize it in our work. Looking at our world today, this picture here is a picture of a gully erosion. In fact, this is in Auchi. They call it the town of 1,000 gullies. And if we look at this, our world is greatly challenged. Vegetation is affected, transportation is affected, power is affected, accommodation is affected. All of that is talking about man, but what about the biodiversity that is being displaced? What about the problems that are evident here? If we are not equipped with the technology that can see what others can't see, if we don't know how to use these technologies to capture information and document it in a way that can be retrieved, can be used to model and to bring solutions, then we are at a disadvantage. There's a need to understand the earth systems and the global environment. I was speaking to a professor of agronomy, and he talked about one major calamity that we are having in Nigeria, and which is not even being talked about. He said that erosion has affected every inch of Nigeria. And it's not this kind of erosion that we see, but sheet erosion. It has gradually eroded the top soil, and it's just being swept away every day. And there's nothing that government is doing to arrest this. And we all know that that topsoil is the home for majority of the biodiversity that sustains life. And when this is affected, is an issue to really think about. When we talk about food security is only possible if the earth that is going to bring forth and cause the seed to grow is itself alive. And there's a need to monitor it. And the soil is only possible to support the growth of plants when the soil biodiversity itself is not at risk. It's a major problem. There's a need for tools to be able to map and identify what is going on the earth, what kind of plants are being put in place, the kind of agricultural practices that farmers are embarking on. All of this needs to be addressed. And in addressing them is when we can say we are having food security. Another major challenge that we have in our world today is insecurity. A lot of times, governments, the media, they talk about insecurity, but not with regards to conservation or to biodiversity. What's in the news is about the kidnaps, is about life. It's about farmers that cannot go to their farms. But we all know that these terrorists are in areas that are designated as conservation areas, forest reserves. And all of these are in the concern of conservation. Therefore, they are disrupting conservation at a level that is unimaginable. I was speaking to a conservationist today, and he talked about the challenge that is going on that is not even talked about, that animals are now being used to fund insurgencies because all of these conservation areas have become ungovernable. And therefore, it's so difficult even to visit or talk less of protect conservation that is going on in these places. And he now said, do you know that an elephant is sold for about $20,000? That's about 12 million naira. And therefore, if they sell 10, they're talking about a lot of cash that is going into the underworld, in the hands of terrorists to buy ammunition to fight our nation. And therefore, in considering even biodiversity conservation, we need to talk about security. We need to talk about the role that we play and how we can leverage on the technologies and methodologies that we have, that despite the challenges that we have in this regard, we are still able to protect biodiversity. And here is a report from IUCN. Well, would say it's the watchdog now for biodiversity for the world. But what is alarming in their reports is this. It said there are 41,000 species that are threatened with extinction. We all know that when we talk about endangered species, it's not just about extinction that this entails, but it says there are 41,000 species that are threatened with extinction. And this is only from 20% of what has been assessed. That means we have 72% that has not been assessed. So definitely these numbers that we see are insignificant in the reality of the problem and challenge that we have on ground. And this report covers for the world. And coming down to our own country, it's challenging to be able to identify even this endangered species. There is not enough or adequate information available in the portals that are online and even domiciled with institutions that have a mandate to conserve and monitor biodiversity. When I began to look into how I could get information that probably even to a minute level of local governments, I found out that it's so difficult, talk less about world. So it's difficult for us to really know the challenge we have at hand. And it's also a call, as IUCN says, help us to make the IUCN Red List a more complete barometer of life. It's a call for every scientist, every conservationist, everyone to join forces so that we'll even be able to identify the ones that are threatened. Because what you have not even identified, you cannot protect. What you cannot identify or where they used to be, then definitely it's just a joke if you say we want to do conservation. And even with the best of all intentions by this world organization, what they could still have is 41,000 species from 28% of what is assessed. So it's a challenge for us all to have a look at and see what to do. And that's the reason why there's a need for what we call the geographic approach. Why? Because everything is somewhere. What we have on the screen here talks about the real world that we're all familiar with. But this real world is an interconnected network of where we live, our building footprints, the forests, the streets, the rivers, the streams, and whatever information that we are capturing. All this are in our world. And except we're able to identify them, map them accurately, then we would not be able to bring a solution to the problem that we have at hand. Biodiversity conservation and monitoring, therefore, is all about location, location, location. That's what it's all about. And that's the reason why we need to approach it, leveraging on what we call the geographic approach, to see what others don't see, so that we can collectively bring a solution to our world. And this brings me to a question that just kept coming up as I was preparing for this presentation. Who is responsible for conservation, for biodiversity conservation and monitoring? Well, some names will come up, but beyond the institutions, I believe it's a joint responsibility. I want just to get a confirmation from you that you are also on this page with me. If you see yourself as being a part of this community that is responsible for biodiversity, conservation and monitoring, I want you to, in the text, just put the name of your institution that you represent. If you are a freelance or you represent yourself, put your name. I just want this to be an exercise in which we'll all be able to say that we all are responsible for biodiversity, conservation, and monitoring. So I want to engage you right now. I just want to have a clear understanding of people that are on right now. Just put the name of your institution, who you represent. This is apart from for those that are joining, to provide your name, your specialty, and all of that. Yes, I can see someone from the University of Lagos. Great, thank you. Yet let's all, with this, affirm that we all have this responsibility. Just type in your institution or your name, as part of this affirmative exercise. Yes, on the chat box. Indeed, Nigeria has so much of this biodiversity all around us in the ecosystems that we have. But as a community, we need to stand responsible for its conservation and monitoring. One critical area that we all also have to know is that it's not just the institutions or governments or even your agency. It's about you and also about the generation. Because when we talk about conservation, we are talking about the future generation. It's a responsibility for us to hand over our batons to this new generation that is coming up. I'm talking about catching them young. There's a need for you to raise enlightenment to primary schools, to secondary schools, of the responsibility, the joint responsibility. We are all in a boat, the mother earth. And for every hole that springs up, we don't have to wait for the captain, the president, the agencies to come and plug the hole. We all have to know that it is our collective responsibility, and there are things that we can do. There are steps that we can take, even for biodiversity conservation and monitoring. Yeah, thank you all for the responses. It's great to see that we have so many people around the world, not just in Nigeria, who are connected and who agree with me that it is a joint responsibility. The future is indeed in our hands. And this brings me to the purpose of my presentation, which is the application of GIS for conservation, biodiversity conservation and monitoring. But if we just look at it alone as the use of GIS, then we miss out on an evolving body of knowledge that leverages on location intelligence to solve problems and make decisions. And this is crystallized in what is now being called the geographic approach. It integrates and supports powerful methodologies for geoanalytics, for geovisualization, for geodesign, for geocollaboration, for geoaccounting. Indeed, it is geoscience and understanding. So it grows beyond just the GIS. I'm going to talk about GIS today, the technology, its application, how you can engage, and things that you can do even right away. But I want you to know, for us to collectively solve this problem, it's a collective geographic approach in which we have an understanding of the interconnectedness of all life on Earth. And we're able to, in our own little way or contribution, bring solace to biodiversity so that we're able to run analytics, have insights into our information. We're able to pull from other existing information real time, and with that, be able to solve problems. We are also able to communicate because this is a universal language. Even if I am not speaking your language, if I was speaking a foreign language, with geovisualization, and that's why I'm using a lot of pictures, because the picture speaks more than just words. You're able to visualize and understand the gravity of the state of things. And with that, then action can be taken. And there's that for geodesign, because there is an alarming rate in which the various man intervention in the environment is affecting biodiversity. And invariably, it's a chain. When there is growth, population growth, and there's development and expansion of communities, forests are cut down, animals are hunted, and the ecosystem is disrupted. The ecosystem that has made it possible for species like the pangolin to thrive and other animals that takes up and eats ants, when they are no more evident, then ants and other kind of pests that would have been balanced by the ecosystem now create a situation that comes back to haunt us. And with this, we are seeing evidence with the kind of zoonotic diseases that are coming in, like COVID, like Ebola, and which is affecting man. So when you disrupt biodiversity, it comes back to haunt, and therefore our responsibility is great. And that's the reason why we need to engage and collaborate across discipline. There's a need for collaboration, and a tool for that collaboration, as I said, is this geographic approach, because with the various information we are able to capture is easily interpreted by all the stakeholders, and the information are put together, and with it we can hold ourselves accountable. This is critical, and it's the way to go. And that comes that question, what is GIS? I've been practicing GIS since 2003, 2004. I've been practicing GIS every day, and that question keeps coming. What is GIS? What is GIS? And everywhere I look around, even for those that say they understand what GIS is, I found out that a lot of people are working in ignorance. And I'm sure for most of us that are on this presentation, we would have used one tool of GIS or the other. Even when we are not even aware that we're using GIS, we must have come across it and used it. And that's the reason why we need to better understand what is GIS. What exactly is this technology? An interesting thing about it is that technology is evolving so fast. In fact, almost every 3 to 4 months, technology changes. And therefore, it's so easy to for it to become obsolete. For some of us, when we talk about GIS, we know it as a computerized system that uses location information, that's geography, to solve problems. And the basic definition talks about it as an integration of the computer hardware and software for collecting, processing, analyzing, and displaying geographically referenced data to solve complex problems. Yes, this definition is real. And as we can see on the left, for those that are users of GIS, particularly those that have been using GIS since the 1990s, the early 20s, and even till 2015, thereabout, this definition might be right, where you have your digitizers and you have your CDs and your diskettes that you collect your data, and you have that POC for working on the digitizer. I'd like to do another quick connection with you. For everyone that is on, I want a feedback on the chat box, please. If you have been introduced to GIS for more than 5 years, probably you'll be able to answer this question. How many have heard about a digitizer or have used one? I want you to just indicate, just say yes, so that I can know if I'm talking to people that have passed through this phase or are still in this stage. If you have used a digitizer before, just type yes, or you have seen one, or you have heard about it, or you know what it is. Just say yes. I want this to be an engaging one, so that when you get the question, you get the result, to be able to communicate better. On the screen, where my cursor is a digitizer, and on it is what we called a POC. Okay, so I'm seeing the nose. It looks like the nose are having it. That means, okay, if you are if you have been introduced to GIS and you know what a plotter is, say yes. Let me get to see if the yes are there. Okay, yes, you know what a plotter is. You might not know what a digitizer is. Good, good. Now, as I said, technology is evolving fast, and before, this used to be the means of data capture, where you put your map on this digitizing table. They came in different sizes. A3, there were small ones as small as A3, there were A0 sizes, massive digitizers. And on it, you use this POC like a mouse to be able to first register your map on the digitizer, and that's called georeferencing. That means your map is where it should be on the Earth surface, and then you start to digitize. It was a tedious means of data capture. And then the scanner also was there. If you want to digitize and you don't want to work on the digitizer, you scan your work, and this also came in different sizes. There were the A3, A1, A0 scanners. And then that was what everyone used to. And you bring in your input into the computer system and you print out on plotters. And that was what a GIS represented. And for a lot of people, this is still what it represents in their mind. But technology has evolved. And now, when we talk about GIS, we are talking about web services that connect on your tablets. Now, when you talk about tablets, they come in different sizes, on pocket PCs, on smartphones, and it connects to these web services. And this is still GIS, but this is the direction the technology has been going. And it still goes even beyond this to what we now have, where we have wearables, we have inputs from drones, and this connects directly to your phones, it connects to your computer systems, it connects to your plotters, it connects, and you are having information real time. So when we talk about GIS, it goes beyond just the integration of the hardware and the software for collecting, processing, analyzing, and displaying geographically referenced data to solve complex problems into what we say is a technology for sustainable development, where you leverage on advanced methodologies, innovative tools, and configurable applications to solve complex spatial problems. Now, this is the definition of GIS: leveraging on advanced methodologies, innovative tools, and configurable applications. And I'm happy, well, from the feedback I have, that a lot of people, well, did not catch the train when it was that difficult, tedious, bulky, and challenging. But you are getting to know about GIS when it has advanced, and a good news is that it has become easier to use. It has become so ingrained into what we do every day that some of us don't even know that we have used GIS. If any one of you have checked your Google map to find out the location and you have used it to find out the shortest distance to a place, and you have used it to beat traffic because you could see areas that had traffic, then you have been using a GIS. That's why we say that GIS is now the leveraging on advanced methodologies, innovative tools, and configurable applications to solve complex spatial problems. This is the definition of GIS where we are now, and is what we all need to step into, where various applications are developed that you can use to get information from satellite imagery. If you are a conservationist and you are monitoring flora, God help you if your area of study is in Sambisa, and you need to collect information. Do we say we cannot go there because there's insurgency, or do we pick up an army to follow us there? There are tools that can now be leveraged on real time that can pick from satellite imagery, that's remote sensing, and pull it into applications that you can use, and you're able to get accurate information real time, and all of this is integrated. And that's why we call GIS now an integrated system. It's not just an isolated tool of your GPS or your mobile device or your scanners, but an integrated system where you're able to collect tabular information, collect vector information. Vector information is talking about point lines and polygon, and pull in three-dimensional information, and also be able to pull real-time information from IoTs. This is really critical, especially for those that are monitoring animals and they have them tagged, for you to be able to pick real-time information. And all of this is a lot of information, which is also stored. Now we refer to that big information, we call it big data. And you can also pick from LiDAR and real-time platforms that are collecting information on the earth. We see in the news of flood that is happening in Pakistan and all of those places. And then they begin to talk about the use of satellite imaging they've been able to use and deploy real time. Even here in Nigeria, I'm connecting here from the city of Ibadan in Oyo State. One of the things that the state government has done over the years is a major project. They call it the Ibadan Urban Flood Management Project. And through that project, they did a master plan of the city. It's a focus on the city of Ibadan. They have mapped every inch. They have set up early warning systems that can alert the public, though this is not yet in public usage, but that's what they have in the offering. And they have collected information and they are collecting information. Now, all this information are being stored. And we as scientists, we as researchers, we need to be up to date to be able to pull from such information, the big data, and crystallize them and use them even for what we are doing at the micro and macro level. We're talking about being able to make use of technology to solve problems, particularly for biodiversity conservation. This brings for deeper insights and faster decision making. And this is the picture of what we have now for GIS. For those that are just being introduced to GIS for the first time today, I would say that even after this short crash course, because an hour is a crash course in GIS, or 2 is a crash course, you'll be able to assemble geographic intelligence, be it through your GPS that you are using, through data that you collect from attribute tables. You're able to assemble them into an intelligent layer. You'll be able to push that information, we call it, publish it on web maps. That means you are not limited to just your isolated or independent platform. but you're able to publish this online, and then you'll be able to share it to different users on the web, on desktop. I'm sorry, it started raining around my area, and that is affecting my internet connection. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so can you see my screen now?
Yes.
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 Being able to make, publish, and share your information put you in a position to solve a lot of problems. And this is what we now refer to as geoliteracy. That is having the geographic understanding of our world, being able to think spatially, and being able to leverage on technology, the adequate technology to make. And I always say this to people that as you know, the way they talk about digital literacy, which is your ability to write and communicate using technology. If you are you are not geoliterate, then you are illiterate. Because if you are not leveraging digital technology, you are not using geographic understanding of our world to make decisions and solve problems. It is critical. And that's the reason why in my presentation, I'm not just talking about GIS as a system for the sake of GIS. It's a collective use of this technology and platform, and an understanding, the geographic understanding of how our world operates to make and solve problems, make decisions and solve problems that surrounds us. Now, when we talk about GIS, the question is, okay, what software do we now use? A lot of us would have been making use of some software you don't even know that you are using GIS. I'm sure I should be able to get this feedback. I want you to respond. If you have used Kobo Collect to collect data on the field, you have used any application to collect location data, just say yes. I want to know if I'm speaking to the right set of people, or if I should go to kindergarten level. If you have used any application, be it open source, be it whatever it is, yes, I can see yes. You have used Kobo Collect, you have used an application and you collected data with it, particularly Kobo Collect and all these other applications. Yes, I see yes. I want to know if I'm speaking to, or if I need to also adjust my presentation so that it's appropriate. Now, when we talk about GIS software, what kind of software do you need? The purpose of this presentation is not just to theorize, But I want us to leave this place being empowered to be able to use GIS to solve problems. As I said, as simple and as readily available as the Google Maps are on your devices, Android devices, it's a powerful GIS tool. It's open source, it's free, it comes with every Android. So if you have not used any device before, Kobo Toolbox, yes. Please, I just want that feedback. If you have used any application, just give us the name of the application. Most in the conservation community have used Kobo Toolbox. I want you to just say yes and mention if it's different from Kobo Collect or Kobo Toolbox. There are also various applications that are on Google. Google is open source, is free, and you should be able to use it. In fact, I always advocate that every family should start to educate their children on the use of Google apps on their phone, Google Map on their phones for their children. Because, yes, Google Form, great. Google has made GIS ubiquitous, so to speak, giving us free software to use. Let me explain why it's so critical that every one of us should start to explore. Go and look at that your Android phone again. If I say we need to get a GIS application right now, I know most of you will say, wow, I don't have it. It's cost a ton. It's difficult to install. But if you have an Android phone, you already have a GIS application on your phone. Now, I'd like you to know that as simple as Google has made this application is a lifesaver. And as I said earlier on, iNaturalist, yes, great. Google Map is a lifesaver. That was a day I was traveling from Lagos. I went through Ota and I was coming into Abeokuta for those that know that route. And just before I arrived at Abeokuta, it became dark and I was disoriented. I began to question myself that have I gotten to the junction, the point in which I need to turn in so that I could connect to the road going to Ibadan. And for a moment, I was destabilized. And I remembered I had Google Map on my phone. I'm saying this so that we all will go and continue this geo-literacy. It is, in fact, it's a critical life-saving knowledge. And I just brought up my Google Map on my phone and keyed in Ibadan that I'm going to, and immediately the screen lit up and it began to say turn right, turn left, turn right, turn left. And I was able to navigate myself out of Abeokuta onto the expressway to Ibadan. And I had a free ride back to town. Now imagine a lot of harm that could have come my way if I had stopped by to ask someone if to give me direction. And in this time that we have so many kidnappers and all of that lurking around, they're exposed to that danger. And therefore, even as simple as that, I want you, when we are done with this presentation, call your children and show them how to use a Google Map on your Android device. On that same Android device, if you put on your map and you press it, hold it down, it will pop up and you can share your location. If there's any emergency, you can share your location to be able to alert people where you at least had last contact with your phone if there's any emergency. So I'm talking about using GIS even for survival. Is a survival kit, your Android device. And that's even on the general usage. If you are on the field, a lot of times, the applications that we use that are open source, they fail because of network. If you switch on your Google Map, you can use that same alert to pick the coordinate of where you are, even if your network is not good, and you can store the coordinate points on your Google Map. So I'm starting with this because I want you to know that you have the tools that are already within your reach that you can begin to use to collect data that will help you even in biodiversity conservation and monitoring. So even your map on your Android device is a critical tool that you should get more familiar with, and also spread this geoliteracy to others. But GIS goes beyond just what Google Map makes available. GIS is a platform that is evolving, as I talked about, and we all need to be more familiar with the technologies that are available. There's, apart from the apps that most are used to, there are open source softwares that are GIS software, QGIS, and a number of others, which I would like you to explore, because they are critical in collecting accurate information, location information, and integrating it. Now, one major disadvantage that you have, if you are just making use of maybe the Kubo collect and all of that, is that you just collect the coordinates. What happens next? After you have collected that information and you have clicked on enter, yes, it goes into a database, it goes into an attribute. Most of the time, you don't have access to that database. Most of the time, all you get at the end of the day, probably they just give you the coordinates. But GIS goes beyond just collecting data on the field. GIS goes beyond just the use of your GPS. You know, in the definition that I talked about, I say it's integration of the hardware, the software, the data, and the people that work GIS. That's the components of GIS. But after you have collected that data, what do you do with it? There's a lot that you can do. And I will still come to this. I would advise that if you need to create, it's not a matter of even if, create time for capacity development. Go and have a short course on GIS so that you not just be collecting point data alone, but you'll be able to process that information to be able to bring intelligence into your work in biodiversity, conservation, and monitoring. Because when that information comes in, you're able to see where it is, bring in other data layers, model, and find out also what is at risk. You're able to monitor the sites that you have. And one thing that I've seen amongst most conservationists, as I said, the first one is that they are used to data collecting tools or applications that picks the coordinate, and it stops there. Then another service that most people do to themselves is that rather than invest in time to learn this technology, to use it themselves, they now get a GIS expert to solve the problem for them. So you have a lot of people that are engaged, a GIS person from this department or that department to help you capture the data, model it, analyze it, and then it gives you the result. But the advantage is just like you have a powerful car and you are getting a driver to drive it. One, you are limited in communicating to that expert your own field. The GIS person is an expert in the use of GIS and nothing else. You need to explain, and that limitation affects the outcome of those analyses. And that's the reason why you yourself must invest time, do a short course. I'm still going to come to that. I'll talk about that extensively. Go register for a master's program in GIS or a short course in academies that are now evolving in town, and other resources that are online, which I'm going to point you to develop yourself. So I've talked about open source, but in my introduction, I was introduced as a business partner to Esri. And I want to talk about Esri. The reason why I spent that long time to talk about the open source is because for most people in conservation, there is the challenge of funding. And when you have open source, that means you have free software. And because of that, a lot of people tend to want to go for what is free. But they are not aware of even what is available for them even with the proprietary software, there's the open source software, there's the proprietary software for GIS. Now, Esri is the leading software manufacturer. In fact, more than 1 million people every day connect to use Esri platform around the world. More than almost 500,000, 1,400, 500 companies are on this platform. A lot of disaster relief, a lot of conservation work, a lot of governmental and non-governmental agencies are using this technology. And Esri has made available, I want you to get this clear, Esri has made available a lot of free software for research, for those that are in conservation field, for NGOs that they can access. In fact, Esri has turned up or made available all their platform for those, for people in this category, in education, and those that are in intervention NGOs for conservation. I'm going to talk about that as we go on, but I'm just letting you know that we need to embrace technology and not be afraid of technology. And this is a very powerful technology that we all need to begin to make use of. Now, Esri has a suite of software that are readily available. The technology is advanced, and yet it has provision for usage by even those that are just being introduced to them. What I'm trying to say is that you don't have to be a GIS person to now use GIS technology in this age and time that we're in. You don't have to be a master's holder in GIS or go to do a year program in GIS before you can use GIS to solve your problem. Esri makes available its technology on the desktop, on servers, on mobile devices, online, and it also makes available enormous data that we can. I put on the platform for us to see. I don't know if you can see this URL. Please, I want everyone to go on Esri platform to check out what they have. There's the ArcGIS online platform that is free. You can use it for a couple of months, but what is available. So I want you to Google Esri and non-governmental organization, that's NGOs, Esri and education, for you to key into the various opportunities that are available for you to get software for free. I have been privileged to work with some universities in Nigeria when I became aware of a grant to 100 African universities. And we facilitated licenses to a couple of universities in Nigeria. UNILAG benefited from it, OAU benefited from it, FUTA benefited from it, University of Abuja benefited from it, University of Ibadan also benefited from it. Though unfortunately, most of these software grants that came into the university was not made available to all, because Esri made it available because there's a need, a critical need for researchers to be able to make use of location intelligence to add value to research. But I'd like you to connect on this, and I would also continue to communicate with the Nigerian Society of Conservation on how to leverage on the opportunities that are available to get software. Now, if you go on the Africa Geoportal, there are also a lot of software that you can get for free. Now, having said all these that are free, Esri also makes available subsidized licenses for students and individual users. Now, a license of Esri for the industry might cost as much as $10,000. That same license, an individual can get a 1-year subscription for $100. And you have what would have cost millions to get. So all of these are available, and I want you to go online and read up about this, and also try and get your hand on some of this software to explore. Yes, thank you. It's also shared on the text so that you can copy it and make use of this. There are tons and tons of free software for usage. Now, with Esri platform, the beauty of GIS is that it brings accuracy. That means when you collect data on the field, you are sure it is where you captured it, which is very critical. And it gives you a visualization platform to be able to see what you have collected. And you are able to interact with it on desktop, on your mobile device, and also online. This is GIS, and it is what you should avail yourself of. From all this, we'll be able to see that there are a lot to explore on the technologies. For capacity development, Esri has various training that you can explore on esri.com. I also put the GIS Academy. That's a link to GIS Consult Training Academy. I want you to avail yourself of this training. Now, there is, beyond the use of GIS for yourself, there's a need for it taking it to the future. The future that we're trying to protect, that's the young ones. And we have a geoliteracy project going on in secondary schools, and this has been going on since 2015, where we have equipped students to use technology to solve problems. And we have a focus on biodiversity, where we have the students collect using the mobile apps that are created to collect data on the field of plants, of flora and fauna. And we are encouraging students to be able to start a conservation garden in their school, to map the garden. And as they map it, they get intelligent feed of the all the factors that will influence that garden. The applications that they use collects right there the weather condition, it collects the soil, it collects information on this and provides a customized feed for the students, such that we are raising a new generation of conservationists, those that will protect biodiversity. As I said, the responsibility is for all, and we need to reach out to the future, put the responsibility of protecting the future in the hands of those that will benefit from it. And this is an ongoing project that we have partnerships on. And we hope that we'll be able to get even support from the Society for Biology Conservation. We have partnerships from a lot of other organizations that are involved in conservation, and this partnership is evolving. Now, what we have done is that we believe in the partnership that the SDG has put as the 17th goal, and this is what we're establishing. And we have established partnerships with NASDA, we have established with ANG, that's Association of Nigerian Geographers, we have established with NAGRAP, that's National Center for Genetic Resources, we have established with NCF, with all these bodies. We want also to be partners with the Nigerian Society for Conservation Biology. And with this, what we are capturing in the schools, one, will enable mentorship. We want you to be able to reach out to schools in your community to mentor them on biodiversity conservation. This increases the net of those that are protecting biodiversity. We want input from you, expert input, on the various competitions we have, on the application that we are developing, and this is what we are pulling together. And with the information we are picking on location, on climatic information, on soil, on agriculture, on biodiversity, we have intelligence that the students can relate with, even in what they are doing. And with this, we have this focus on students, but it's a pool of information for researchers. So the value comes back to you. And we believe that even this information that we have gathered, working with students who have captured information on biodiversity, who have started a conservation garden, who are involved in the various sustainable utilization of biodiversity resources that are in their community, who are advocates for biodiversity conservation and monitoring. We believe that this will bring about information for policymakers and also for the industry. And definitely the value extends beyond just this to even employment and revenue generation for all. This is just a screenshot of what we have, where students are collecting information, picking accurate information, and identifying the various biodiversity based on scientific protocols that we are using and procedures, and also they're getting an understanding of conservation to even start their own conservation garden. This project we have started, and the stage we are in is working with our partners, and we are moving to the schools to have the implementation, and we would like your society to be part of this, a journey towards sustainable development. We started in 2015. We have taken this journey, and we're at this point where we have innovative, because our goal, we allied ourselves with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, and believe that by 2030, we'll have solutions to share. So that is where we are, and we're encouraging you to spread this information of biodiversity conservation with the generation that is coming, and for you to get involved in it. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I've been able to throw some light on the use of GIS for biodiversity conservation and monitoring. And I would like us also to engage. If you have questions, as it's on the chat, you can drop it. And then I hand over to the anchor to continue with this. Thank you for the privilege and opportunity you've given me to share with you on what we are doing and how you can also be involved with us on this. Thank you very much for your time. I'm very grateful. I hope this has added some value to your knowledge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Afolayan, for this beautiful presentation. That is very fascinating. Let me check if we have any question on the chat box.
Okay, I see a question.
You see a question just now, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, free software which has limited expiration. Okay, now let me go to that page on Esri and open source. Yes, as I said, Esri has tons of free software, as in a lot. Go to Africa Geoportal. There are software tools that you can use as researchers that are there, GIS tools. So I want you to explore that. Now, if you also go on the ArcGIS online platform, if you go to www.arcgis.com, the online, you need to register to be able to use the ArcGIS online. Now, the ArcGIS online is a paid platform, is a subscription-driven platform, which comes at a cost, but it has a window of about a month for you to work with it. If you don't fall into the category of those that get the free version, either as an NGO or you get the grants, like what I talked about, University of Ibadan has had the grants from Esri since 2015 till date, and this is renewed annually. So if you are able to get the grants, you get all this for free. But on the Africa Geoportal, the free licenses are there also for you. For the ArcGIS online, if you go on it, there's a general tool for that is free, the ArcGIS online, that is free for like a month. After that, if you don't get on the paid subscription, your account is not blocked, but it becomes an open account. That means it becomes a public account. The advantage of this is that if you have collected data that is public information, then you can leave it and make it public. So anyone can still make use of it. The only problem is that after the period times out, you might not be able to access it to use it again. But you have been able to collect your data, you have been able to get your results, and you have moved on. Then I talked about the $100 license that you could make use of, which is available. Then there are also a lot of free software you can use. The only difference with the free software of the open source is that Esri is committed to developing this software because it's paid for. They have resources to develop, so they have a very robust tool and it's so easy to use. You can work from your mobile phone, push it online, push it on your desktop easily, seamlessly, with just like 30 minutes training, you're able to achieve that. But with the open source, the learning curve is a bit stiff, and the products are not so connected, but yet it's still value that you can help explore. So you can also Google open source GIS software that you can download. QGIS is one of such. Then I talked about the one that is already in your hands that you've not been using. That's the Google map that you can make use of. So you can explore that. I can see some questions are also coming on. How is GIS used in location-specific monitoring of conservation status of different species that have conservation challenges? Now, location-specific. Now, for any, like I talked about, this conservation is all about location. Everything you want to collect is about location. And when you want to collect data, whatever information you want to collect, even if it's at the genetic level, that's why I started from the genetic, the species and the ecosystem. Even at the genetic level, it still has a location where you have collected it from. And you can even run analysis, even at that micro level of the various genetic, whatever that you are running. So you are mapping your genes, you are mapping it, the DNAs and all of that you want to do. You are doing map of those micro levels. What you can see with your microscopes, you can map it. That's the level at which you can use this technology. I'm putting up my email, GISconsult@gmail. You can reach out to us. And as I said, we are seeking a collaboration with your society. So I believe that this is not going to be my last with you. It's the beginning of a journey. And we are willing to support everyone that is committed on this journey. As I showed in my presentation, we are also putting in our own bits to promote biodiversity conservation and monitoring, even in the secondary school. I want to work with you. And this will involve capacity development and all of that will make available to you on it. So it's a journey that we're starting together. I'm trying to run through. I've shared my email, gisconsult@gmail.com, and reach out for further information.
There are some questions on the chat box. I think about 3 questions.
Yes, I'm trying to look through location-specific monitoring of conservation status of different species. I had the opportunity yesterday. I was at NAGRA and I was in their seed gene bank and also went to the animal section. And one thing that was evident that I could see was the massive collection that have been done on the various species. And for me, in my own mind, the question that comes up is location, location, location. Where were these captured? Where are they? And looking through what I could see that there were addresses that were taken of where these species were captured. But the world has evolved beyond just using just basic addressing system. There's a need for that coordinate systems to use. And that's when you need to use your GPS or the various apps that we talked about to collect location. But it's still even beyond just collecting the location of where they were captured. You need to be able to give us a geo-visualization. So for every one of us that are involved in biodiversity conservation and monitoring, you should be able to show people online where whatever you are monitoring is. You should be able to show the boundary of the sites that you are using that are accurate. You should be able to show the migratory flow of the species that you have, even real time, because now there are so many easy to use gadgets that are available that you can make use of. And that's a major relevance for GIS for biodiversity. And that question is, thank you for the thought-provoking talk on this. My question relates to Sambisa forest you mentioned during your talk. Considering the conservation related to targeted species, what absolute requirements for ground truthing does GIS require in this case? Yes, this is a very, very critical issue that has been raised, particularly for reaching areas, communities, ecosystems that are in areas that are not reachable, ungoverned spaces. How can we get to do this if we want to do ground truthing? Well, the challenge is enormous, but with the technologies that we have, it makes data collection easier, faster, and can also be done remotely. A lot of information can be acquired from satellite imagery. I would like you to, let me scroll down to that page so that we can have a look at it, so that you can check it up on data that's available on SG platform. I want you to go to and check out for image services for free data that is available on satellite imagery on SG platform. Now, this information is amazing, where you can have NDVI over the years available, and you can put it as a layer that you can put your own layer on top of it. And the beauty of this is that you're able to relate with remote sense data that once you're able to get your own location, you can begin to interpret it and see changes over time. And then you can model, based on the changes you have seen, what it will be like in the near future. One very powerful platform that SG launched just about 6-7 years now is the ArcGIS Online. And I want you all to just Google ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Online. As I said, there is the free version that you can use to explore, to teach yourself, and that will suffice for a lot. And for those that want to pay for the subscription, you can get the paid for. The beauty of this is that you can push your data, capture data with your mobile phone, bring in satellite imagery on it without paying for extra satellite imagery, process your information, carry out models to see the changes of whatever you predict will come up, and this share with people that when they go real time on the field, they can actually see your information and collect it real time and interact with that information. All of this is now easy to do on the ArcGIS Online. Before, you needed to have a GIS expert who was not just into GIS, but was a web programmer who could program servers that could push your data. But now this is possible on that online platform. It's called the ArcGIS Online. So please, let's explore that as once we are done with this, to see the opportunities that are there. There's another question here that says, are there basic equipment or facilities that we need to invest in before running a sustainable GIS system in the university setting? Also, on a personal level, what do I need to invest in to successfully run a GIS system? Now, this goes back to our definition of what a GIS is. What is a GIS? There are components of the GIS: the software, the data, the hardware, and you yourself, the GIS person. Now, what do you need on the basic level to be able to run it? On the basic level, all you need is your laptop and probably your mobile device. That's all you need. If you want to set up a GIS lab, now, even internationally, they are encouraging that students should bring their laptops so that even the university does not have to invest in acquiring hardware, because technology changes rapidly. And if you are running on a low budget, it's better that you invest on getting software than on getting the hardware that will time out. students can come with their laptops and then connect. And now with the capacity that is available on the ArcGIS Online or even on the other open source, because other open source are making available online mapping and online GIS platforms. I'm very familiar with the ArcGIS Online and I believe in it. I promote it not because I'm just a partner, but because it's a tool that has solved problems. I've seen its impact on a younger generation. I've seen how they're using it in the developed countries, and we are promoting it here. With the technology, particularly of Esri, it simplifies this, such that with just an ArcGIS Online account, you can bring all your students together on an exercise, create mobile applications for them that is free, that they will use, that is web-based or will run on their phones, and they can go out to field to collect data for you. Now, because of the flexibility that online brings, that means you can collect data real time, you can monitor it real time, you are not tied to get into the office to switch on your computer and get this license to run. That means you can make use of it. So to be able to invest in running a sustainable GIS system in the university setting, you can just get the basic stuff of the laptops. Now, getting laptops are more sustainable than getting desktop, though both of them have their challenges. The laptop has the power that comes with it. Therefore, if your electricity goes off, your system is not off. So I always advocate that you set up a lab with laptops. But the problem with laptops is that because it's small, it's easily movable, so you need to provide security for protecting it. The only advantage I see with the desktop is that it's difficult to move. So for those that are security conscious, you might put up the desktop that has the monitor and the units embedded. But on a sustainable basis, getting a laptop is adequate. Getting internet connectivity is also key, because the licenses that you have runs online, most of it is online and you can connect. So for universities that get the grants, then you have all the software you can use. And that's why I said, go and check up on Esri and education and try and connect. As I said, I'm available. I can further provide that information for those that are interested, or you can connect with Esri, other Esri partners in Nigeria, the distributors, or just connect to the Esri platform on education and request for how you can get the grants. If you don't get the grants, get the 1-year license of $100. It's the cheapest that you can get anywhere, and it works. It's the best, and in fact, almost all of what Esri has that you can utilize. So as on a personal level, get the personal user license, which is just like $100. If you have the cost of getting it from the local partners, maybe they put $20, $30 on top, but it's that cheap for you to run and you have your system running effectively. Then I'm looking at some questions that compare to SGGIS, and which of the SGGIS will you you don't compare an apple with an orange. SG stands on its own. I'm just kidding. OpenGIS, that's QGIS and all of that, I actually explained it earlier on. They are also good when you are on a budget. They are available for you to use. But you find out that because it's open source, no one is responsible for it. The support you can get is also open source. There is nobody that is responsible for it. So for critical work, it's dangerous to put all your data on an open source software that no one is responsible for, that no one really you can hold for support. No one really, if it crashes or there are challenges, you can get a physical person to interact with you. That's a major challenge. And it should be a concern for anyone that is on such information that we carry. That's talking about biodiversity. So that's one of the challenges on the open source for QGIS, but it works. The difference, I've also talked about the flexibility of use. Because it's open source, development is gradual. It's not as rapid as Esri. Esri has developed various tools that are useful and is evolving and makes it so easy. So any day I would recommend that you go for the Esri software. If you go online, there is a critique that was done, particularly for the conservation community. There was that question on what should be used, open source or Esri GIS, and there's an extensive discussion on this. And the conclusion was that what you gain by getting the proprietary software of Esri far outweighs the cheapness of the open source, like I've also explained earlier. So I would recommend you go the Esri route. Now, what should you do? The server or desktop? Now, this is another area that a lot of people get confused over, because Nigerians always want to go big. So they say, let's go for the server. No, the server has a role. Let me go to the page on Esri so that I can quickly touch on this. Yes. Now, the server is such that you can push your data on it and people can connect remotely on it. However, with the GIS Online, it provides the same value that you can get on your server. So why invest $20,000, $50,000 on one server when you can get that same service? The GIS Online is like software as a service. It's a hosted server for you. So most of what you want to do on your server, you can do on the GIS Online. So just get the GIS Online subscription and possibly buy some desktop licenses. That's all you need if you want to be sustainable and if you want to get immediate results. There's someone has access to the slides. I've sent the copy to the president and make it available as she deems fit. Then please, how can we access the paid software and what are the capabilities? Sorry, I missed this. Okay, as I said, I've shared my email. I'm sharing it again. Please connect with me. I will give you more details on how you can get the software. And I always advocate for a scalable approach. That means the basic one, just get an GIS desktop and an GIS Online license, a subscription. We can always interact. I've shared the email, my email, gisconsult@gmail.com. We can continue that conversation so that we do not take too much time on how you can get the paid software. I don't know if I've touched on all the questions. I'm going through it again if there's any other one. But I think I've touched on all the questions. Then we've talked about the software. It's critical that you invest in capacity development. There are a lot of courses that are going on. There is the mass open MOOC that Esri is doing. I would also share that in the WhatsApp link. We have some of our people from GIS Academy connected. Please share link to MOOC on the text box if you are there. Then you can also have shared there some of the links to the free software. We'll try and share that. And as I said, we'll make this available to the executives so that they can share with us. So the discussion will continue from this. I hope I've covered all the questions. I'm running through the text to see if there's anyone that I've missed. Kindly bear with me if I've not answered your question. Yes, I see one. Mapping out of flora in a location without physical presence might be visible. Do we have any software to use for fauna biodiversity survey? Yes, as I said, the information that you can get from satellite imagery that are indicative of what is on ground. There'll be a need for you to do some ground truthing, but the ground truthing will just be some areas to be able to properly classify the analysis you are running on it to confirm it, and the software will be able to pull out for you much detail on areas that you didn't get to. So yes, it's possible for mapping of flora in locations that you don't have a physical presence. Then another beauty of the ArcGIS online platform is that you can create a data collection to yourself and share it to people in those remote areas. One of the advantages of what we will get by working with the schools is that with the information we get, if in those areas that are ungoverned, we have people that are living there. So, and as I was jokingly saying with some people, even the bandits have children in school. So if the children of the bandit goes to collect information about biodiversity, I don't think they will kidnap him. So that's the beauty of using the online platform to share apps for people to collect data. You're able to crowdsource information for areas that you cannot get to. And these are the beauty of what GIS makes available for biodiversity conservation. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Afolayan. That was a very good response.
Yes, the training for MOC is on the text. You can check it out. These are ongoing free training for people. So you should avail yourself of this opportunity on Esri. Then on Esri platform, also explore this, the training. There are lots of free training, particularly on conservation that you could do. So that means instead of you just using applications to collect data either on Kobo or whatever, and it goes into a database that you have no control over, you can collect your local information too. And I believe as we work collectively, even as a society,
Okay, thank you, Dr. Afolayan. Please, if you have any more questions, please, you can ask. You can unmute yourself and ask if you have any question or comment.
Thank you so much,
Questions?
Architect David. Thank you. If I'm given this space, I want to ask a question, please.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Question is, having collected different GIS information, the location, and probably the details of what is going on concerning different endangered species within some specific threatened area, and there is inaccessibility to such area. How do we continue to monitor that particular maybe threatened species without having to go and endanger ourselves? We talk about bandits taking over some specific area, which are research area before. And now there are some research key information that needs to be monitored. Can I just plot my details, the GIS detail I've taken into a map, and then I will be able to access and continue to view and monitor my thing, or how do I go about it? That's my question, sir.
should I respond now or should I wait till all the questions come in?
Yeah, I think you can respond due to time factor.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. This is a very important question on how do you access areas that are not accessible? How do you continue your research work? It's a major problem, but this also when you can become creative in your data collection. As I talked about, this time for you to leverage more on your mobile data collection. For those areas, if you have privilege to get short times to go there, during that period, you must collect maximum information. And therefore, if you are collecting information, either your application must be such that it's tracking and capturing it real time as you're moving, especially if you're going probably with a security escort. That means you don't have all the time. So your application must be such that can collect real time. Your application must be such that sometimes you might not even be able to bring out your phone physically to collect, but your devices can sense and pick it. So there are various ways in which you can customize your application. If you are using any of these tools that we have talked about to collect data real time as you are moving, is mapping and is capturing it, then you can also put up sensors on the field, either embedding them in the trees, cameras, and all of that. And there are a lot of evolved or emerging devices that are really, really small that can pick. Now, the cost sure defines how small your device can go, but there are devices that can transmit that you can have. There are some that can record, and when you get there, it picks it. So one should also be looking at the possibilities of getting sensors. And that's why in my presentation, I talked about remote collection of data, either through satellite imagery, from LiDAR platforms, from drones, from sensors that are embedded, from tags that you have put on the species that you are monitoring. All of this can give you live information without you physically being on site. So there are so many things that you can continue. Now, how do you also continue that monitoring? And that's why the beauty of it is that you are not just collecting point data to put in your record as Excel. You are collecting data that you can plot on a visual device. That means on the monitor, you're able to see the species that you have captured as points, and you are able to integrate live feed from there. I was watching some documentaries of some conservation work where they rigged up their phone because the cost of getting a sensor that can transmit was not within their reach. So what they did was just an Android phone that was powered with solar. They rigged it up that is capturing it, and they tied it up to the tree. So it was just putting a phone in the forest to monitor, and the phone worked excellently because you have a powerful tool in that Android device that you carry that you can make. So we just need to be innovative with the challenges that we face and in our data capture. And once you're able to visualize what you have, then it brings in another dimension that most conservation work are not exploring. You have gone beyond just collecting the points. Yes, you have the points, you have the data you have collected, but now you're able to visualize it in real time, and you have dashboards that people can interact with. When people are going out, they are seeing previous collections, and as they are inputting their work, you are seeing what is going on the field. So those are the various innovative ways that one should be able to leverage on technology. The first port of call is develop your own capacity. Second one is beyond what you can be able to develop immediately. Engage professionals by specifying what you want. You don't just want to map the locations that you are monitoring. You want real-time coverage. Therefore, this will influence the architecture that they will provide on how that data can come in. And be innovative. Like I was talking about that, we looked at it, how can we capture information if we don't have devices that can scan the expensive device? Your iPad becomes another tool you can use. Your mobile devices, the resolution of your cameras are better than most scanners that are in the market today. So you can use what you have to collect data and utilize it, and don't just keep it to yourself. And that's why I'm advocating, and I'm going back on that GIS online for us to go and check it out. Produce your location intelligence, push it online, share it on the various devices so that others can benefit from the knowledge you have. That means the information pool you have, make it available. Once you make it available, you have put your metadata on it. Anyone that needs more information can reach out to you, but you have extended its reach. Other people can start their research work on what you have done. They can pull your information as layers to use. So those are the ways in which one needs to be innovative in times like this, when we are challenged by resources, both financial and challenges of insecurity in areas that we are protecting. Yes, I hope that has given some response to the question.
Thank you very much, sir. You have done justice to my question.
Yeah, I've done justice to that. Thank you, Architect Afolayan. I think we are running out of time. So next, Dr. Israeli, the Africa SCB president, will give us a short remark. Dr. Israeli, over to you, please.
Hi, everyone. Good evening to you all. Good morning from Berkeley, California. I'm happy to be with you all today. Thanks so much to the president of the chapter for organizing this event. She drafted me into it and I had to wake up at 6 a.m. to get the Zoom running for everybody. And I'm happy to be part of it. I'm grateful for this opportunity. And I also want to say hi to all of my friends, and colleagues, and co-workers and collaborators for this great opportunity to have this workshop. GIS is indeed a very important tool for conservation research. And I myself, when I came to the US for my PhD program, that was when I had to start learning everything and also using it for my research at the same time. So it was a huge, steep learning curve for me. And having to use that with ArcGIS and also doing geospatial analysis in R right now. So everything I had to learn them from the scratch. And so having those tools in your skill set is going to be tremendous. It's going to be incredibly helpful for your research. And so I want to commend the chapter leadership for organizing this workshop. I want to commend the instructor for a job well done. And I also want to thank everyone who made it, participated in this webinar and this workshop. And I wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much, Dr. Israeli. Dr. Olaliru will give us a vote of thanks. And please, Dr. Olaliru, you can go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abubakar Riji, for the moderation. Dr. Olaliru, the Vice President of the chapter, and I have the privilege of giving the vote of thanks at this moment. I will start by thanking our presenter, the facilitator for today, Mr. David Tolu Afolayan. I don't know whether it's related to the president, I'm not sure, but it's a pleasure to have you here with us, and it was a great eye-opener. We've been hearing of ArcGIS, we've been hearing of GIS, we've been hearing of maps, but today it was from a different dimension, applying it to biodiversity conservation and monitoring. We are very grateful to you for taking out your time, spending your data, and sharing from your wealth of experience and what you've been doing so far with the schools in Ibadan and with the government too. And you are now proposing to incorporate the NSCB to be part of the collaboration. I think we will discuss that and get back to you. Thank you very much. We are very, very grateful. I want to thank those that made the call very possible. We want to thank our host, the president of the SCB African section, Dr. Israel Borokini, who just spoke before I came on. Thank you very much, Israel, for hosting us. We are grateful to you. I want to also thank the moderator, Mr. Ringim. Thank you earlier, but you did a good job.
Yeah, thank
having
you.
to moderate from the United States, yes, having to moderate from there. I'm sure you have to change your schedule to accommodate us. We are very grateful. And I want to also thank our professor that presented our last webinar, Professor Emmanuel Agbokan. He has been on the call, and of course, he's going to be our key speaker during the sister conference. The sister organization, the Nigerian Tropical Biology Association, is a sister organization to NSCB, and she'll be hosting our 7th Biodiversity Conference just this month from 27th to 29th. We're all invited. We are still receiving abstracts. And incidentally, the theme of the Our conference will be on insecurity and conservation of Nigerian biodiversity. So we are all welcome to this conference. It will be virtual, so you will have the opportunity of joining from anywhere you are on the globe. So we want to thank other people that joined the call. Dr. Folaromi Babalola, he was here earlier, but I can't see him now. Dr. Oludare Agbola, you were here earlier. Dr. Excellence Akeredolu, you are just joining, you are welcome. And I want to thank all the others that were here. Dr. S.A. Kazim, Dr. Eso Oladipo from Kwara State University, Malete, and even our own president, the convener of the webinar, our leader, Dr. Adedotun Afolayan of NAGRAB. We very much want to thank all the others that were present, Dr. Lumude Omotayo, Dr. Islamiyat, I've thanked you earlier. We are grateful all the way from South Africa. You read the citation of our presenter for today. We are grateful to you. Dr. Tolu Lokpe Olaseni Bamiboye, we are grateful unto you. And I saw Alex earlier on the call, all the way from Italy, University of Padova. Alex, thank you very much. Alex used to be one of our resource facilitators in some of our conferences. Thank you, Alex, for joining. And I want to thank Fumilayo Adebi for joining from University of Ibadan. All the others that have joined today's call, there are members from WCS, Gertrude Nja and Frank Erabo. Thank you for joining. And if I'm not mentioned your name, it's not that I'm not appreciative of your presence on this call, it's just because I can't mention everyone's name. But we are very grateful for making this webinar, for you being a part of this webinar today. And without any other thing, moderator.
Yeah, I think we will like to take a photograph.
Yeah,
so if we can please